Democrats want to increase funding to the IRS, while Republicans say the IRS will target average Americans with 87,000 new agents. But wait, is that true? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. President Joe Biden wants to tickle a lot of things. Sorry, I meant tackle a lot of things, like climate change, the economy, social welfare, the list goes on. He also wants the rich to pay what he calls their fair share of taxes. Biden's like Robin Hood. He wants to take from the rich, give to the poor, and if he could, he'd never wear pants. Biden also wants to reduce the tax gap, the difference between what people owed the government versus what they actually paid. Biden tried accomplishing his goals last year with the BBB, the Build Back Better bill. It was an expensive bill that passed in the House of Representatives, but Republicans and Democrat Joe Manchin killed it in the Senate. I guess the BBB wasn't quite as popular as RRR. But not all hope was lost. The Build Back Better bill's successor, the Inflation Reduction Act, passed in the Senate last week, with a lot of modifications from the original. And just barely. No Republicans voted for the bill, which meant that Vice President Kamala Harris had to break a 50-50 tie for it to pass. The bill had no trouble passing in the House of Representatives since Democrats have a majority there. The bill will allocate almost $80 billion to the Internal Revenue Service over the next decade, because who doesn't want to give the IRS more money? Democrats are in favor of a bigger IRS. After all, IRS funding and employees have gone down over the years. Apparently not even the IRS likes the IRS. But that's affecting IRS audit rates. So the reasoning goes, it's time for the government to empower the IRS with more money, which in turn will generate even more money for the government. The $80 billion funding boost for the IRS is projected to raise around $204 billion in revenue, for a net savings of $124 billion over the next decade. The hope is the IRS will be better equipped to make corporations and high-income earners pay their fair share. Democrats say this will reduce the nation's crippling inflation, fund climate change initiatives, and keep prescription drug costs low. Over half the money would go to tax enforcement, followed by operational support, new tech, and taxpayer services. IRS tech, in particular, could get some major and much-awaited upgrades. Which is good, since it feels like the IRS does a lot of calculating by counting on their toes. But with this new upgrade, they can now calculate on even more toes. The bill has its critics. Many say the IRS will actually target lower and middle-income earners by auditing them more than the rich. Republicans go so far as to say that the IRS will hire 87,000 more agents specifically to come after middle-class Americans. An attack on the middle class? Stop, it's dead already. But is that really what's going to happen? I'll tell you after the break. Welcome back. Democrats want to spend money to improve the IRS through the Inflation Reduction Act. But Republicans say the IRS is raising the Democrats' new army of 87,000 IRS agents to come after average Americans. They'll look under every rock and stone to get money out of your pocket. Whoa! How do they know I keep money under rocks and stones in my pockets? My pants are super heavy. I see why Biden isn't the biggest fan of them. You know, actually, I'm glad Republicans are warning us about all this. They're totally not trying to score political points. After all, if the FBI raided Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate, think of what the left plans to do with 87,000 new IRS agents. And their 870,000 toes, give or take a few accidents and diabetes complications here and there. Currently, the IRS has about 82,000 employees, so another 87,000 would more than double the IRS workforce. But will the IRS really get a boost of 87,000 new agents? Looks like it's time for another segment of Wait, is that true? The 87,000 figure comes from a Treasury report released in May of last year. It mentioned hiring roughly that many people over the course of 10 years with the $80 billion given to the IRS under Biden's American Families Plan, which was part of the Build Back Better Act. Now, as I said earlier, the IRS has around 82,000 employees, but more than half of the agency's current employees are eligible for retirement and are expected to leave the agency within the next 5 years. According to one Treasury Department official, a lot of these resources are just about filling those positions. Over half of the IRS is about to retire? Makes sense. Their job is taking money, and who likes coin collecting more than the elderly? And not all employees are enforcement agents. Many work for customer service and IT. There's a difference. In reality, the IRS will only grow by around 20 to 30,000 more employees. That's about a 25 to 30% growth, and that's over 10 years. So the 87,000 number is a bit of an exaggeration, and those are not all IRS agents. Not that that matters to Republicans right now. Why back down from scoring political points? Senator Ted Cruz couldn't pass up the opportunity to claim that these 87,000 IRS agents will be armed. That's after someone found an IRS job posting seeking applicants willing to use deadly force. Deadly force? Are IRS agents going to start looking like the pro wrestler IRS? You're going to pay your fair share, dead or alive. Okay, to be fair, this was a job posting for a criminal investigation agent. Yes, the IRS has its own law enforcement branch. Given how people feel about the IRS and cops, being an IRS cop sounds like an unpopular career choice. Anyway, the point is that carrying a gun isn't unusual for an IRS criminal investigation agent, but the IRS deleted the job posting after the outrage. Then the IRS put it back up, but deleted the line about carrying a firearm and being willing to use deadly force if necessary. You can tell Ted Cruz was just doing this for political points, because since when has a Texas Republican ever been against letting someone carry a firearm? I'm pretty sure that's part of Texas's motto. Politics aside, though, there is evidence that the IRS would actually do more to tax average Americans than the rich. I'll explain after the break. Welcome back. Critics warn that the Democrats' Inflation Reduction Act and the $80 billion it gives to the IRS will target middle-income Americans, which is terrifying. After all, if the IRS took down Wesley Snipes, what chance do any of us have if even Blade couldn't stop those bloodsuckers? In response, Trump-appointed IRS Chief Charles Rettig wrote a letter saying, "These resources are absolutely not about increasing audit scrutiny on small businesses or middle-income Americans." Soon after, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen directed the IRS to not use new funding to increase the chances of audits on Americans making less than $400,000 a year. Notice her wording here. It's important because it's sneaky. She claimed that contrary to the misinformation from opponents, small businesses or households earning $400,000 per year or less will not see an increase in the chances that they are audited. She didn't say there wouldn't be more audits, because there will be more audits. In that letter, Yellen said that it's the share of audits on these small businesses and households that shouldn't change. So, if the total number of audits increases, is that okay as long as the share of the audits remains the same? That's like an arsonist saying, "I'm going to burn way more houses to the ground, but don't worry, I'm going to torch the same percentage of small homes." Chances are the IRS will in fact audit the middle class more, because they're going to audit everyone more. Plus, Senate Democrats rejected an amendment that would protect against using IRS funds for audits on taxpayers with income below $400,000. Some claim the IRS has already largely given up on auditing the ultra-wealthy by shifting the tax burden onto small businesses and the middle class. Instead of going after people who actually have lots of money, they're trying to get blood out of a stone, which is annoying because that'll just get blood stains on my pockets from all the stones I'm keeping in there. But more IRS audits might not be the real problem for the middle class, because they'll probably be more upset about all the new taxes instead. According to data from the nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation, the Democrats' proposal will increase taxes on millions of Americans across every income bracket, with more than half of the tax increases on Americans making less than $400,000 per year. At least half of all new tax revenue raised would come from those earning under $400,000. By 2031, those earning below $400,000 could pay as much as 2/3 of the additional tax revenue collected that year. So when the IRS lies to Americans, it's fine. But when I lie to the IRS, I get fined. Cool. Data from the Joint Committee on Taxation also suggests that between 78% and 90% of the estimated $200 billion that the IRS will collect will come from small businesses, because small businesses are the real cash cow of America. Meanwhile, between 4% and 9% of the money collected will come from businesses that earn above $500,000 a year. So essentially, anyone in favor of this is saying, I'm fine with my house getting burned down as long as a few mansions get slightly singed as well. Proponents for the increased IRS funds say that the Joint Committee on Taxation didn't take into consideration the benefits of consumer tax rebates, health premium subsidies, and lower prescription drug costs, all of which will save people money that they can give to the government in taxes. But the Inflation Reduction Act might not be good for the country overall. According to the Tax Foundation, the Inflation Reduction Act would reduce economic output and eliminate about 29,000 full-time jobs in the United States. It would also reduce average after-tax incomes for all taxpayers over the long run. Yeah, that doesn't sound terribly good for the country. The Tax Foundation also said by reducing long-run economic growth, this bill may actually worsen inflation by constraining the productive capacity of the economy. But don't worry, this 10-year inflation is only transitory. Of course, both the Joint Committee on Taxation and the Tax Foundation can only make educated guesses about what the Inflation Reduction Act's tax laws will do to the country. I guess we'll have to wait until we see the blood spurting from the stones in our pockets. So what do you think? Leave your comments below. And if you like this show, remember that we rely mainly on direct viewer support. So please visit our new Locals community at americauncovered.locals.com. Become a supporter and help us keep making great episodes. Click the link below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.